Home Development Mutual Fund, or called as HDMF, more popularly known as the Pag-ibig Fund, is the Philippine government-owned and controlled corporation under the Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council, responsible for the administration of the National Savings Program and affordable shelter financing for Filipino employed by local and foreign-based employers, as well as voluntary and self-employed members. It offers its members short-term loans and access to housing programs.
The fund was established on the 11th of June 1978 by virtue of Presidential Decree number 1530, primarily to address these two basic yet equally important needs. Under the said law, there are two agencies that administer the fund. The Social Security System, or SSS, handled the funds of private employees, while the Government Service Insurance System, or GSIS, handled the savings of government workers. Less than a year after, on March 1, 1979, Executive Order 527 was signed. The order directed transferring the administration of the fund to the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, which was one of the operating agencies of then Ministry of Human Settlements.
Good day everyone, we're here at Pag-ibig Fund, Gel Building, Shaw Boulevard, and today we are going to interview the SVP of Pag-ibig Fund, Mr. Fermin, Jong, Santa Teresa.
Mr. Santa Teresa was a officer in charge of Pagadian City Sub-Regional Office in the year 2001 to 2006. Department Manager 3 of Cagayan de Oro City Branch in the year 2006 to 2010. Vice President of Northern Mindanao Group in the year 2010 to 2012. Vice President of North and Southern Mindanao Group in the year 2012 to 2014. Vice President of BizMin Home Lending Operations Group in the year 2014 to 2017. OIC SVP Concurrent VP of Loans Operations Sector in the year 2017, Senior Vice President of Loans Operations Sector in the year 2017 and 2018, and a current Senior Vice President of Business Development Sector.
I'm Fermin Aguinaldo Santa Teresa, and they fondly call me as Jong. I've been working with Pag-ibig Fund for almost 30 years now, and well, Pag-ibig Fund is the organization that I decided to grow my career because of the challenges that we have, especially in helping our fund members in acquiring decent home for their families. And right now I am assigned to perform the duties and functions as the Senior Vice President for the Business Development Sector, in charge in the implementation of the shelter program of Pag-ibig Fund, especially in marketing our program, disseminating to our people. And before my assignment here in Manila, I used to be the Vice President for the Visayas and Mindanao Group for Housing Operations. And prior to that, I was also the Vice President for the operations of Pag-ibig Fund for Mindanao Group. So that's how I grew my career with Pag-ibig. And I'm still looking for another 4 to 5 years to be with Pag-ibig before I will finally join the private organization, just for a try in the entire career that we have. Mas maganda rin siguro a balance between working with government at the same time working with the private sector.
Good afternoon po, sir. My name is Kayla Cruz de la Cruz.
And I am Clarice Cuenco, and we are from Far Eastern University.
Today po, we're gonna ask a few questions po about leadership.
So for the first question po, as Senior Vice President, what does leadership mean to you?
Well, in as far as our office is concerned, leadership means motivating people. It's totally different with being a manager. Because if I say leader, he should have the ability to let the people believe in him. He should have the ability to communicate. He should have the ability to persuade people. And of course, another skills that he has is he should be innovative. At the same time, he should also have that development skills so that he can also develop people around him. So it's totally different of being simply a manager or a boss, because as a boss, you simply direct people to produce result. So bottom line is, you should be, if you want to be an effective manager, you should be a very good leader. Because that's the only way, like Pag-ibig Fund, our ability to attain our desired objective is dependent on our leadership style or skills in leading the organization.
During your younger years, describe the key actions and behaviors of the person that you've experienced as your best leader.
Well, to be the best person that I experienced as my best leader is my is my father. Because aside from teaching us what is good and what is bad, he also has the ability to make us understand. He also has the ability to lead through examples, because my father is one of the person who don't have biases. So he say smoking is bad to your health, gambling is bad, we are forced to follow because he's not doing it. So my good mentor is really my father.
For you po, sir, are leaders born or made?
It will depend. They are really these people who were gifted. There are great leaders who are really known for that. But in most cases, these are built. Because people learn based on experience. Just like in my case, in the past, I don't have the ability to motivate people. Though I know I have that skills, but it's not enough. But because of my experiences, especially in leading like organization as huge as Pag-ibig Fund, we are learning. And I always believe that experience is the best teacher.
So you say, sir, that you are made. You're a leader that is made.
Yes, yes.
Sir, what is a role model, and in what ways are role models important for leaders?
It's really very important. Actually, that's one of the skills or the ability that a leader should have. There is that saying that believe in what the preacher says, but do not follow what they do, because they preach but they do not practice. That's very common to all. Look at politicians, look at leaders who is fighting corruption, but people don't believe them. To some of them, I'm not saying all, simply because to the mind of the people, they are the ones who are doing it. So living by example, especially in the virtues that you wanted the people around you to inculcate in their minds, should be an effective way if you yourself can do it. Otherwise, if you preach people, you tell them what is good and what is bad, but if you are not showing that you are doing it to yourself, then it will be of less impact to the people.
Who are your role models? What are their characteristics, and what have you learned from them?
Well, we have great leaders that I look at as an example. Of course, my city mayor of Zamboanga. I grew in Zamboanga. And he is one of the political leader where I have seen his political will. No matter how difficult it is, but if you have the determination to do it, though you will really attain what you wanted to. We also have some presidents, like presidents of even here in the Philippines. We look at some of them are really those whom we can admire, but unfortunately I cannot mention who they are, but they are really those who are demonstrating some good leadership characteristics.
Sir, leaders give importance to long-term goals. Commonly, they have a mission and a vision for the company and for the team as well. What can leaders do to help others in the organization see the future?
Well, making the members understand, giving them a clear definition of the mission, objectives, or goals of the organization, getting involved in what they are doing is one way to show everybody where we are going. Just like in the case of Pag-ibig Fund, we are always telling our employees that our vision and vision is to become the lead financial institution in the implementation of the shelter program of the national government. We did it with the support of all the people, our people, simply because we gave them a very clear and well-defined trust, directions, where we are heading, and we are always working with them just to make them understand and feel and let them see clearly that we are going this direction.
Sir, leaders are known to be risk takers at some point. What are some of the actions you take to create a climate for change and encourage risk taking?
Taking risks is really part of the day-to-day activities that you will be taking as a leader. Because for every decision that you make, you have to consider everything, especially the risk. There are managers who fail to do things because they're afraid to take risks. And whether we like it or not, in every action that we will take, there is always a risk. So, to address all this, a manager should have the determination, that courage, and that motivation to ensure that every actions he will do will always redound for the good of the organization. So very important is the manager believes in himself, and he always recognizes the contribution of the people behind him, because whether he likes it or not, two heads are better than one. So in every decision that they make, one of the good strategies is to consult others so that the integrated ideas can come up with a better one that would redound to the benefit of all.
Sir, can you give us a situation or an example po that you took a great risk po and what happened?
Well, in our lending policy, we have so many competitors in the market, the banks. Pag-ibig Fund, it's really very difficult for us to compete because the bank can just offer any liberal terms they wanted. But in as far as Pag-ibig is concerned, we are governed by the government auditing and rules. So there are instances where we wanted to accommodate the transactions of the developers, but it cannot be because that based on the existing rules and regulations we have to follow. But there are times we bend the rules just to make sure that we can get the desired result. Accepting deliveries, even the documents are not complete, for as long as we can get their commitment to deliver. would pose a risk to Pag-ibig, because in the event that they will not comply with the requirements, in other words, those transactions will not be in accordance to the rules and regulations of Pag-ibig Fund. So there are also times that we have to gamble, especially if we are releasing funds. Basically, everything should be complete, but we do allow undertakings such that the developer is given the opportunity to comply that as a post-takeout activities. And doing that is already taking the risk in as far as Pag-ibig Fund is concerned. But because we also have safety nets, when we take a risk, there is a safety net, so that in the event that there is a failure on such, we have other remedies how to recover. And at the end of the day, it will become still an acceptable transaction in as far as the auditing rules and regulations are concerned.
Should leaders let their constituents fail?
As much as possible, we do not. But we cannot also expect that all constituents will not fail. That's a given in any organization. As a leader, you should guide. One of your primordial responsibility is really to guide and to make sure that each and every member of the organization are properly guided. As much as possible, do not allow failure, because failure among or any of the organizational members might be fatal to the overall objective of Pag-ibig Fund. So avoid doing such by, and you can do that, minimize that by exercising your best strategy in coaching, mentoring, or guiding them. Otherwise, if you leave them alone doing their job without closely monitoring, the management function is really very important, especially planning, monitoring, coordinating, and the review process. Because once that is in a complete cycle, you are very certain that everything is within your control.
How can leaders create a climate of trust and facilitate relationship among people in a work?
That's one of the ability that a leader should have. Create a climate that would facilitate relationship among the people. So, bringing the people together, allowing them to interact each other, listening to both, addressing concerns, especially if there are some problems within the organization, allowing them to participate, listening to their opinions, asking ideas from them is one good strategy to allow everybody interact. Leaders who are authoritarian in nature are those leaders who can get result but cannot get full support. It's really very difficult to manage people just because of fear. You let them produce something because they are afraid of you. It's totally different when you convince people to produce result because they believe in you.
Yes.
So that's the two different things. So to make that the second option, to believe in you and to support you, you really have to create that atmosphere such that a very good interaction among the people, not only among the people but including yourself,
Yes.
in an organization, can be felt by all. Because this is the opportunity where people think that they also have the freedom, they have the voice, they have that contribution in either the failure or the success of the organization. So ito na yung sinasabi natin, in unity there is strength.
Yes. Sir, ano po, Sir, ano po, what are 3 things that can be done to improve in each leadership practice? What are 3 things that you can do to continue learning and to be a better leader?
Well, first, the three things to be done to improve leadership practice is, first, communicate. It's really very important that you know how to communicate. It does not mean that you just simply talk, that's already communicating. Good communication means you have the ability to convey ideas on what you want, and you also have the ability to make the people understand what you are saying. That's one of the very important skills that a person should have for improvement of his leadership style. Second is relationship building. Organization as you grow, new people come in, or people come and go, and as you deal with all this, you have that ability to build relationship among your people, because no matter how good you are in being as a leader, if that is limited only to a certain part of your entire organization, you will not be as effective as it should be. So relationship building should really be a continuing strategy or improvement that you have to ensure for you to become a good leader. And not only that, even yourself, your strategy to build relationship with the people around you, to be with all those people. Then at the same time, you should also have that ability to develop leadership skills. Hindi lang po para sa inyo, pati kung para sa mga tao nyo, especially your managers behind you. You should also how to train them, because I always said that 2 heads are better than 1. For all you know, you have this idea, but other people below you have better ones. So if you combine these ideas, it would come up with a with a better and very effective, especially if you are thinking of strategies on how to direct the direction of the organization. So consultation, if you get people who can really be of great contribution sa inyo, then it would help you. But if you don't know how to train them to develop their skills, the knowledge that you can get from them is limited.
Sir, can you tell us about the time you struggled with work-life balance?
It's always happening. It's really always happening, a balance between your work and your life. Oftentimes, especially Pag-ibig Fund, you will realize that you're spending most of your time in work-related activities. It's because of the pressures, it's because of the need, it's because of the urgent concerns that we have to address. But it's not always that advisable, because not only you as the leader, but also your people. You should create a venue, an avenue that the activities of your activity and the activities of your people should have this work-life balance considerations, because if you will not do that, you will end up encountering some issues, problems, especially health problems. Personally, ikaw as a leader, if you don't know how to manage your activities versus yung kailangan ng buhay natin to ensure a healthy living, then you will end up probably an unproductive one. So work-life balance is really very important component in running an organization. That's why in Pag-ibig Fund, we always see to it that we only compel employees to work the standard working time, 8 to 5. If there is a need that we require them under time to render overtime rather, it should not be always. And we also make sure that they can enjoy their weekends with their families. Then we are also giving them the enough leaves. They can go on leave, available leave, mandatory leave for 5 days, vacation leave or sick leave and all those, because we wanted to maintain those. In other words, healthy organization would mean not only yung healthy working conditions, but also people working with you with healthy mind and healthy body.
How do you monitor the performance of individual team members? In what specific ways do you motivate your team?
Well, sa Pag-ibig Fund, our performance standard is being measured in 3 major components. First is the overall organizational output. So we set a target. The target is being agreed, and it always start from bottoms up. We let everybody participate in the target setting. Once it's finalized, it's approved by management committee and the board of trustees, and that will become now the organizational target. Like housing, we are always being measured on 4 major considerations. First is the number of accounts that we will produce for a certain period. Say for example for this year, the amount involved. So just like this year, our internal target is 71.5 billion. Our board approved target rather, but we have an internal target of 75 billion. Then we are also being measured on the processing time, because processing time is part of the quality of services that we wanted to achieve. And of course, yung post-release, we are also being measured on the ability how we collect. So on the ability how we collect, we are being measured not only on the amount that we are being collected, that we are collecting every month, but the level of performing loans ratio. In other words, if the number of accounts that would remain current versus the account that would become in default. So it's really very important for Pag-ibig Fund, because without that key result area, we might end up not it's really very difficult, I should say, to have a sustainable housing program if our collection platform is not fully in place. Then it's being cascaded into a department level. So for processing time, this is now the specific target for those who are involved in loan processing. Dito naman sa kabila, for collection and performing loans ratio, this will now become the responsibility of the department who are collecting. Dito naman sa other side, sa production, that's the responsibility of the people who are marketing. Then it will also be cascaded to individual performance. So halimbawa, an employee, meron siyang major duties and responsibilities: entertain clients, answer telephone communications, or sa supervisors, review application, approve applications, then motivate performance of subordinates down the level, no? So every officers may kanya-kanyang responsibility, and that is what we call as the individual performance review. The other one I mentioned earlier was the department or group performance, and the other one is the corporate, the entire organizational performance.
Sir, how would you describe your leadership style?
My leadership style?
Yes.
Sir.
I think one of the best. Net joke lang.
Yes.
Well, personally, I believe that I still have to improve more
Yes.
because, as we said, the complexity in running the organization is really a tall order. It's not just an easy because every year, every activities is becoming too much complicated. But on the other hand, I would say it's very effective because for the past years, with my experience in running the organization, especially housing operations, we were able to attain our objectives. And in other words, I am safe to say that my ability to manage people, my ability being their leader, contribute a lot. And this is being measured coming from the success of our organizations. Especially ngayon, I am really proud to say that everywhere I go, I can see subdivisions where people are staying. I'm always telling myself that I'm part of that building a sustainable community because alam natin na we are really part of that. So overall, I see it an effective one, but overall the ground for improvement is really there. Because as we said, we are growing a much bigger organization, and we are facing a much complicated society this time. So it becomes a challenging task for us to make sure that we will align, especially in adapting with the new society, new technology, and even handling with the millennials. Kasi iba na yung mga tao ngayon, no? Lalo na the young generations.
Yes. How would you rate yourself po as a leader with 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest?
Wala bang 6? No, joke lang. So, I could say it's 4. 4 because as I said, I know I am already there, but the 1 is still a ground for improvement. I have not seen any perfect leader.
Yes.
May kanya-kanya tayong weaknesses and strengths. And even if a leader is very successful in running the organization, may aspect sa buhay niya, dapat he will correct that.
Yes.
So there are people who are very good in leading organization, but who fail to lead himself.
Yes.
Now that's why if I ask to rate leaders, I always look at 4 as the most appropriate rating. And I wanted that rating to be my rating to my own side.
I do not focus on the short term, but on the long term.
I do not imitate, I originate.
I do not control, I inspire.
I do not maintain, I develop.
I don't ask how and when, but what and why.
I do not do the right things, but rather do things right.
I do not accept the status quo, I challenge it.
I do not administer, I innovate.
I am a leader, so